to the Webex director to see who we have on Webex. Members of the committee, that is.
We have Clayton Byrne, Connie Bonner, Jacqueline Fluge, Kelly Fox, Mark Smith, and Philip Bradley.
Thank you. Some of those are conferees. But anyways, committee, we got a full session here. We're going to take up House Bill 2611, if the reviser would be so kind as to give us an overview. I'm going to stop you there, Mike, just a second. I need to do bill introductions. I forgot about that. Is there bill introductions from committee members? Looking to my left, looking to my right, no bill introductions. Bill introductions from the audience. No bill introductions. Bill introductions is closed. Now, Mike, if you would, an overview of 2611.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this bill authorizes the delivery of alcoholic liquor and cereal malt beverage by liquor store retailers and retailers of cereal malt beverage. The bill is structured, Section 1 applies to both liquor stores and cereal malt beverage retailers. Section 2 is basically regulations of liquor store retailers and how they would handle delivery. Section 3 deals with cereal malt beverage retailers and how they would do it. Section 4 amends the Liquor Control Act to add some definitions, and Section 5 amends the Cereal Malt Beverage Act. I'll go through the bill in a little bit more detail, but that's the structure of the bill. First section, delivery permit in subsection A shall allow the permit holder to deliver alcoholic liquor or cereal malt beverage on behalf of a retailer or a cereal malt beverage retailer. The deliveries may be conducted by a permit holder, an employee of the permit holder, or an independent contractor. There's a $25 fee for a delivery permit you get from the Director of Alcoholic Beverages. The person that is applying for the permit has to be 21 years of age. They have to maintain automobile insurance. They have to comply with Sections 2 and 3, which are the details of how the delivery is handled. The permit is good for 2 years, and the permit holder will be liable for violations of any violations of the Liquor Control Act or the Cereal Malt Beverage Act. Section 2 begins on page 2 and applies to liquor store retailers. I'll go through it in a little bit of detail. Section 3 is basically a repeat of this for cereal malt beverage retailers. I don't see the point in being redundant and going through all that. And Section 4 and 5 are just amendment kind of things. If you want more, or you want me to stop there, I'll be glad to stop if you'd like.
Well, to be on this committee, I require everybody to be capable of reading and maybe not understanding, and that's the reason we have the question portion of it. So I'm going to just open it up to questions if they have questions of you, Mike. It's on. Okay. Questions for the reviser on the bill? Yes. No questions? Oh, we have a question. Yes, Representative Reisman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just wondering, is there anything in the bill?
Microphone? Is it on? Maybe they're not turned up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just wondering, is there anything in the bill as far as the person that's making the delivery, what type of training they're supposed to have to ensure that the person...
Yeah, you have to speak a little louder. I don't think the volume.
Okay.
Representative Penn, would you turn the volume? I know. Turn the volume up. You're my IT man. Go ahead. Just speak a little.
Okay. Is there anything in the bill that That involves training for the person who's delivering? Yes, delivering the alcohol to the home to ensure that they're delivering to a person
The retailers are required to establish a training program. That's in the bill.
But is that done by the retailer?
By the retailer, and they have to get their training approved by the director.
Okay, and what happens if can Uber or any of those delivery services make deliveries?
Say again, I'm sorry.
Can Uber or any of those delivery services also deliver alcohol?
Well, the people that deliver will have to have the training, so is that your question?
Yeah, I was just wondering who would do that if it was it was a third-party delivery service?
Right, the same.
Same, okay.
Further questions of the reviser? Seeing none, we're going to start right out. We have a number of conferees. First up, I'm going to take all the proponents, and at the end of the proponents, we'll have questions, if that's agreeable. Thank you. First up, Mike O'Neill with Walmart. Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and welcome to Federal and State Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pleasure to be here this morning. Mike O'Neill on behalf of Walmart. Obviously, we're one of the largest retailer in the country, but we have an interest in being able to deliver all the products that we currently are able to deliver. The only product we can't deliver right now is the cereal malt beverage product that has been allowed to be sold in retail stores. This is not our first rodeo, because there's about, as the Distilled Spirits Council testimony that you have in writing there indicates, there are 30 states that allow delivery. Right now, Walmart is doing deliveries of all their products, including beer, in 18 states, and they have a very robust and vigorous method of delivery that's been tried and true without any particular problems. We're wanting to bring that capability to our consumers here in the state of Kansas. I'm going to, because I don't want to forget, to the representative's question, the training program has to be done by both a retailer and a third-party delivery service if a third-party delivery service is going to be utilized. And that training program has to be vetted and approved by the ABC. The ABC would have the discretion to deny it or place conditions on it. Perhaps they're not rigorous enough or whatever, but that's total control. And on the subject of ABC, one of the things that we did over the summer, we had a delivery bill last year, but we did a lot more vetting over the summer, particularly with regard to some of the things that came up during the interim study, which we appreciated was conducted. And that is to get with the ABC, tell them about our model, tell them about what we're thinking about doing, and making sure that any bill, and this one in particular, contains the things that ABC thinks are important. Now, you'll be hearing from ABC, and there could be that they'll address the things that are in there, and there may be other things that they want to be addressed. Make no mistake that we want this to be a workable solution, just like it's working for us in 18 other states in which we are doing currently deliveries. The one thing that you will hear, and the main thing, and the reviser did a good job of explaining that, is that in listening to the stakeholders and interested parties, both in the CMB world and also the Alcoholic Liquor Control Act licensees, is that there are some who do not wish to be in the bill, and yet there are others that are outside the CMB product who would like to be in the bill. We felt this bill needs to be inclusive, at least start out with the premise that delivery should be available to any licensee who chooses to do it. If this bill passes, it's not mandatory. If you have the product and you choose not to want to enter into a delivery arrangement for your consumers, you don't have to. But it is something that consumers, particularly, it's been brought to the forefront with COVID and the expectation that is going to survive COVID. It's going to be the new normal, that we're going to have individuals who love the convenience of delivery. And they're currently enjoying the benefits of delivery, except in Kansas, they cannot have original package, unopened package of alcohol or CMB delivered to their door. And that's particularly true for retailers, convenience stores, and that sort of thing who already have a robust delivery system in place. We're just adding one product. The bulk of the bill, as Mike said, you have to have two separate sections, one for those under the Alcohol Control Act and one under the Cereal Malt Beverage Act, but they're identical. The way this would work would be identical for both. That's the way that the bill needs to be drafted. So the easy part is allowing delivery. The harder part is making sure we get the mechanics and the legality and the hoops that have to be jumped through by either a retailer or a delivery service. We want to check those boxes to make sure that that's going to be done in an appropriate manner that complies with law. And we do that with having the third-party delivery service be permitted. So we want to make sure that at all steps of the process, ABC has regulatory control, has the ability to enact rules and regs. And we've tried to check all the boxes in terms of anticipating questions that may come up, like the representative's question on training. One of the things that we heard about was the possibility that a third-party delivery service will somehow hijack the brand. And it's no longer a product that's coming from a Walmart or a convenience store, and it looks like it's a Doordash product. We make sure that the retailer's identity is protected from the time it leaves the store until the time the delivery is completed, including the fact that the transaction must be completed before the product leaves the retailer. Whether the retailer is delivering it on their own or whether they're delivering through a third-party platform, that sale is going to be completed before a product leaves the store. And it must be the retailer's product. It must be in their current inventory. So I can't anticipate all the questions you might have, but we look forward to questions that the committee might have, and then we hopefully can point to provisions in the bill that cover that. With that, Mr. Chairman, we appreciate the opportunity to expand delivery services for the consumers in the state of Kansas who have come to rely upon that service and would like to have that include the beverages that we currently offer. Be happy to stand for questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I was going to tell you at the beginning 5 minutes, and you get 5 minutes and 3 seconds. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
But conferees, we will restrict you to 5 minutes because I need to get everybody in. Next up is Tom Palance, Retail Grocers. The one that we read this summer retired, and apparently he's back.
I'm like a bad penny, Mr. Chairman. I just keep popping up. Well, thank you. Yes, my name's Tom Pallas, and I represent the Retail Grocers Association on this issue in support of House Bill 2611. And as I get into my testimony, I think it's probably prudent to give a little bit of history of where we're at today. This is a different committee dealing with CMB and liquor. Most of those bills were in the Commerce Committee, so I thought maybe if it's okay, go back and backtrack this. Prior to 2017, convenience retailers, grocery stores, and convenience stores could only sell 3.2 beer, also otherwise known as near beer or what have you, and that's 3.2 by weight. And of course, liquor stores could sell all beer, spirits, and wine. It took, actually over the years, we did work with the liquor industry on Sunday sales back in 2002 or 3, something like that. Liquor stores weren't too crazy about doing it then because of staffing issues, but we got together when we made that happen. As we move forward, the convenience industry brought forward a number of initiatives to the legislature to allow us to sell beer, just beer only. And then around 2008, we said, well, we're not getting anywhere, so let's try to get everything. So we tried beer, wine, and spirits, and we formed a coalition and so forth. Fortunately, we got together with the liquor industry in 2017, and we had a meeting of the minds, and we all got together and supported the ability for convenience stores and grocery stores to sell beer up to 6% alcohol by volume. A little difference in terminology, but that amounted to about 75–80% of the types of beers that people were buying. Before that convenience stores and grocery stores, our market share is about 15% in the market, in the beer market. That has obviously increased since then. With that legislation, we had to wait 2 years for kind of a cooling off period. We wanted to make sure we get regulations in place, and stores were gearing up for this change. The biggest change was for the liquor industry, because we got beer up to 6%. We didn't get all beer, we just got up to 6%. And the liquor stores have the ability to sell other products. So they can sell grocery products, they could sell chairs, they could sell whatever, as long as it's within a 20% ratio of their total gross sales of liquor. So there was a trade-off for both industries. So as we move forward, that's the history of CMB and the liquor industry. And I bring it up because I see the liquor industry as opposing this bill. What 2611 does, it doesn't, we also had an agreement. I don't want to forget the agreement. It was a gentleman's agreement back in 2017. It said, we wouldn't come forward with any more liquor initiatives, whether it would be wine and or spirits going forward. And I don't believe that this bill impacts that agreement, because we're only asking to sell what people could come into our store to sell that they would buy today. It's the same product. I mean, whether we can deliver it or they come into the store, we're not asking for wine and or spirits. At least at this point, we're not doing that. We have a few more years to go. But I just wanted to bring that up, that there was an agreement, and you might hear about that again. You may or may not, but I just want to make sure you knew that. Obviously, a lot of changes happened with the pandemic, as the prior conferee indicated. Working with limited employees, you had people that were working from home. The businesses like bars and whatnot, and restaurants, they were cut way back in what they could do because of mass gatherings. You weren't allowed to get together because fear of being infected with the virus. So everybody came up with different ideas. We were seeing some drive-through restaurants now actually selling mixed drinks through the drive-up window. We had with liquor stores curbside delivery, which is all positive stuff. I mean, that's what we need to do to keep people safe. In the grocery industry, we obviously had already started home delivery with grocery products because they needed that, and it obviously the business picked up more. 30 seconds. All right, I'm too slow. I never could talk 5 minutes, but anyway, as we go forward, we know there's a few ABC issues that we need to discuss, as prior conferee indicated, but we also know that there's with the liquor industry opposing this bill, we try to put this as an even playing field. As Mike said, if people don't want in it, they don't have to get in it. We have a business model that's in place. The liquor industry may not like that business model, and they're looking for their own. I understand that. But as we go forward, we know that we have a model that works, and this one extra piece would be advantageous. So with that, I will sit down.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Becky Schwartz with Fields True Independent Energy and Convenience. Good morning and welcome to Federal and State Affairs.
Good morning. I'm Becky Schwartz. I am with the Executive Director of Fuel True Independent Energy and Convenience. For those of you that know Tom, I'm the much shorter, much more brief version of him. And like I said, I represent the convenience stores. And our convenience stores sometimes operate as a small community's grocery store. And they do sell CMB. They want that opportunity to deliver the CMB along with groceries. We actually have some convenience stores, especially in southeast Kansas, that already deliver their groceries. They want to include the beer with their purchase. So with that, our convenience stores fully support this, and we also support any changes the changes that the ABC has. So with that, I thank you, and I'll stand for questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Next up is Clay Bird with Amazon on Webex. Mr. Bird.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Committee. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, great. Thank you so much for having me, and pleasure to be here today. First of all, I wanted to thank the Chairman for the time. Here on behalf of Amazon. I'm a Senior Manager of Public Policy at Amazon. I've been at Amazon for about 8 months. Previously worked in what's comparable to the Revisor's office in Tennessee, so I want to thank Jason Long and the Revisor for having an open door and discussing various provisions of this issue, as well as Director Beavers, who's been a terrific resource and also somebody that's been exactly what you'd expect in that role, very objective and someone that's always willing to listen and hear from the industry. We are in support of the legislation. Of course, we characterize Amazon as a customer-obsessed company, and we currently, through Whole Foods, deliver alcoholic beverages and groceries in about 17 states. We've got a stable, reliable, proven model. And to speak to a couple of points that were raised, I think it's important to talk about generally what this bill is not, because sometimes folks look at Amazon through a certain lens and think, oh, well, this is interstate shipping or delivery from warehouses. Just for clarity purposes, Amazon is a retailer in this space. Of course, we own Whole Foods Market. We have about 500 Whole Foods Market locations throughout the country and 3 in Kansas. Amazon is responsible for around 8,000 jobs in Kansas. We've got 6 fulfillment centers and 2 delivery stations, 3 Whole Foods, and then 2 wind farms. But what would be impacted in terms of business lines with this legislation is unique to the wholesale business model, Whole Foods Market business model. And again, we're in support of the legislation. Of course, customers' expectations and demands have changed during COVID and across the country. The model that we deploy in other states is tested, it's reliable, and we're certainly committed to working with this committee and with Director Beavers on ensuring that there are proper safeguards and protocols in place to ensure the safe and responsible delivery of alcoholic beverages. Another thing of note is this is a 3-tier compliant delivery model. Mike and Tom both mentioned privileges associated with retailers. Again, this bill does not authorize delivery or shipment from the manufacturing tier or from the wholesale tier. In other words, product that would be delivered under this bill, whether it's liquor, wine, or beer from various retailers, would have already traversed the 3-tier system. Again, that 3-tier model is certainly something that various members of the alcohol industry would be interested in keeping in place. Again, we take the responsibility to engage in the safe delivery of alcoholic beverages seriously. We have a flawless track record in Kansas with alcohol sales at our locations. We look forward to working with this committee and with Director Beavers and the ABC on any amendments if necessary, and would be happy to walk the committee through our process for alcohol delivery. A good way of thinking about it is if you go to Amazon.com's website and you click on the Whole Foods Market banner, you're within a certain proximity of a Whole Foods Market in Kansas, for example. By clicking that Whole Foods Market banner, you fill out a virtual cart at that time, and ultimately that triggers a workflow to shop online. A customer or a person at Whole Foods shops the order, including beverage alcohol products, and then an independent contractor who's associated with a subsidiary of Amazon called Amazon Flex then delivers the order to a customer. That driver must ensure that the person accepting the order is over 21. They scan the ID, conduct a inspection of the ID, ensure that the individual accepting the order is not visibly intoxicated, and that courier or driver is unable to complete the order without going through that workflow process. In other words, the order itself within the driver's app the driver has to engage in several steps to ensure that the person accepting delivery is over 21, including scanning the ID, which is contemplated in the legislation. So not to get too granular, Chairman, but happy to answer any other detailed questions. Really appreciate the committee's time and hope to expand our business operations in Kansas and with your support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And if you'll remain on Webex for the questions when we conclude the proponents. Alex Madden, Doordash on Webex. Are you on?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Thank you. Go forward.
Great, thank you. My name is Alexi Madden. I'm here on behalf of Doordash, and we stand in support of HB 2611. So thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members, for the opportunity to testify today. I really wanted to focus a little bit about the safety and security measures that Doordash has in place for the safe and secure delivery of alcohol in states where we are already authorized to do so. For those of you who are not aware, Doordash is a third-party delivery system that enables last-mile logistics. Folks usually think of us as a way to get their restaurant food from the restaurants to their homes, but we also do a lot of work with grocery and convenience stores as well. So from the consumer experience, essentially, if you were on our app, you would put your order, let's say you wanted a 6-pack of beer, into your cart, and at the checkout point is where we would require you to scan your ID. The instant security check is with state-of-the-art technology. We match it to DMV state ID databases to make sure that, one, it's not expired, and two, that it is not a fake ID as well. So the last thing that happens is the picture from the ID is then sent over to our delivery drivers, and they know exactly who the delivery needs to be handed off to person. Speaking of our delivery drivers, much like Amazon and how the gentleman from Walmart identified, we have a robust training system and guidelines that delivery drivers must go through before they are allowed to deliver alcohol in any of their orders. They must also pass a test that identifies that they have learned the knowledge that we've put forth. These cover things like how to identify a visibly intoxicated person, what to do in cases where someone looks underage, and the like. So we take this very seriously and make sure that our training is up to date always. But from the delivery driver's point of view, they then go to either the grocery store or the convenience store, pick up the order, and send it along to our customer base. Once they get there, they know that the only person that they can hand deliver the alcohol to is the person who placed the order. The ID is scanned at that time a second time. So for example, let's say mom and dad had placed a grocery order and it had a 6-pack of beer in it, but they ran over to the neighbor's house when the delivery driver showed up. The driver is not authorized to leave behind the alcohol unless the person who placed the order is there, and it can be handed off to them, and ID can be scanned a second time. But it's not all good news just in terms of customers being able to have their 6-packs delivered to them. It's actually good news for the local economies as well. One of Doordash's values is to empower local economies, and in states that we have been authorized to deliver alcohol, we've actually seen an increase in order values. This is about 30% for grocery stores and 50% for convenience stores. But it doesn't stop there. Our drivers typically make about $22 an hour while they're active on the platform, which is actually a little bit higher in the state of Kansas. But we've seen that orders that they accept that have alcohol in them, there's an increase of about 30% in driver pay for those as well. So we wholeheartedly support third-party delivery of alcohol. We thank everybody who's been at the table throughout these conversations. And I will stop there and happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Next up would be Mr. Kelly Fox, Instacart. Mr. Fox, are you on Webex?
I am indeed. Thank you very much.
Please go forward.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Kelly Fox. I'm a public policy manager for the Midwest region. I'm before you in support of HB 2611. Instacart, one of the several grocery online order businesses, successfully and responsibly delivers alcohol in other states and faces a growing demand to do so in Kansas. HB 2611 would address these issues by providing a safe regulatory framework for retailers, delivery permit holders, employees of retailers, independent contractors, and third-party delivery providers to deliver alcohol products to customers who request such services. In 2021, U.S. alcohol e-commerce sales approached $6.1 billion, up from $2.6 billion in 2019. While ensuring customer demand is met in a timely fashion is certainly a core business principle, unlocking alcohol delivery in Kansas also provides a significant benefit for state, county, and local government. Instacart customers in states allowing for alcohol delivery paid over $107 million in total taxes in Q1 of 2021. This included over $611,000 in excise taxes from the sale of alcohol and $13.3 million from sales tax on alcoholic items. For example, Instacart customers in Illinois and Tennessee generated over $13.1 million in total tax revenue. Instacart is strongly committed to full and complete compliance with the law, in particular, preventing sales and deliveries to minors. Shoppers who engage with the platform and wish to handle alcohol orders, all of whom must be 21 years old, are required to complete an alcohol training module that covers topics including but not limited to compliance with all applicable laws, how to identify and refuse an intoxicated customer, recognizing valid forms of government-issued and false or altered forms of ID, and refusing delivery for suspicion of purchase for a minor. In addition to any legal consequences, shoppers who fail to comply with applicable law during an alcohol delivery lose access to our platform. While it's clear that there are risks associated with alcohol products in their delivery, HB 2611 provides a clear framework from which to work and accountability for bad actors. Kansas has a unique opportunity to dramatically increase tax revenue available to the state, local municipalities, and retail merchants. The resulting increased flexible earning opportunities as well as part-time employment opportunities would be a boon to local economies. We understand the complexity associated with this issue, but we believe HB 2611 is an important step in the right direction, and we look forward to working with you and talking more about the issue with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Mark Smith. Mr. Smith, are you on Webex?
Yes, sir, I am.
Please go forward.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Mark Smith, and I am the Director of State Government Affairs at Shipt. I'm here this morning to support HB 2611. Shipt is a nationwide same-day delivery company with a marketplace of over 130 retailers across grocery, home goods, pet supplies, and more. Additionally, we hear our customers and their request to build full baskets that include adult beverages. Shipt supports passage of clear sets of rules and regulations for alcohol delivery that bring convenience to customers while prioritizing safety. Legislation should provide for state-issued delivery permits to allow retailers or third-party delivery companies, including their employees or independent contractors, to make same-day intra-state deliveries of beer, wine, or spirits to individuals who are 21 years of age or older for their personal use. This legislation provides for all of those provisions and is similar to several of the other 22 states where Shipt is currently delivering alcohol and fulfilling customer needs with a full basket, while again prioritizing safety by having a robust education program for those deliveries. In summation, Shipt supports the intent of 2611, and we look forward to working with the sponsor, committee members, and interested stakeholders to pass safe, secure, and convenient alcohol delivery legislation. With that, thank you for your time. I'm happy to stay on and answer questions.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Next, we have Jacqueline Fluge on WebEx.
Good morning, committee members, and thank you. My name is Jacqueline Fluge, and I'm the General Counsel for Drizzly. Established in 2012, Drizzly is the nation's largest, leading, and first platform for on-demand alcohol delivery. We're here today in support of HB 2611. We operate in over 30 states. That being said, we operate differently, differently from our colleagues here before you today. Drizzly connects consumers with local retailers. However, Drizzly does not provide delivery services, nor does Drizzly engage with subcontractors for delivery. Each Drizzly retail partner is responsible for delivery. 75% of orders on Drizzly are delivered by the employees of the retail licensee. The other 25% are delivered by a variety of third-party companies that the retail partner contracts with and pays. Drizzly never handles alcohol nor engages others to handle alcohol. Accordingly, Drizzly holds no licenses in regards to alcoholic beverages. The plain reading of the bill does not require an entity such as Drizzly to obtain this permit. However, to make this point certain, we propose the following language as an amendment. Nothing in this section shall be construed to require a technology services company to obtain a delivery service permit if the company does not employ or contract with delivery drivers, but rather provide software or an application that connects consumers and licensed retailers for the delivery of alcoholic beverages from the licensed retailer. Such language does not alter the content of the bill, but merely crystallizes the intent and provides clarity. The above language is included in the alcohol delivery laws in Mississippi, Alabama, and North Carolina. I thank you for your time on this important issue and hope we can lend our expertise in this field to work with the committee members towards the addition of this amendment and the passage of the bill.
Thank you. That concludes our proponents. Committee, other questions? The Vice Chair has the first question. My question is going to go to Doordash, Alexi. My question has to deal with if you are delivering, and this may be a question that ABC might be able to follow up on when they provide their testimony, but when you are delivering and say that individual is not of age or the correct person to accept the alcoholic delivery, what do you do with the product? Can you keep the funds still, so forth?
Right. I believe the bill outlines that the liquor has to go back to the retailer. So at that point, it would be on us to return the liquor at that point and then figure out the finances on the back end.
And then you would then still keep the delivery charge?
For the liquor, I mean, the customer would receive a refund if they didn't get the product.
But if you deliver it and then that person's not there, then your delivery driver just drove out of their way to deliver it and they're not there. So then you're out that money, correct?
No, the delivery driver is still paid.
Okay, thank you. Representative Heiberger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vice Chair, I have a question for Mr. O'Neill.
Yes, sir.
You indicated that alcohol was the only product that your client can't deliver. Does your client deliver firearms?
We don't deliver firearms. And the other product, in all fairness, is I don't think we currently deliver tobacco products.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to be clear about that.
Yeah.
Didn't seem like a great combination. Madam, with your permission, one more for Alexi. Yeah, Alexi from Doordash, are you still here?
Yes, sir.
I've heard a lot of concerns about the impact of delivery fees by services like yours on restaurant revenues. Do you envision how your fee structure is going to work for when you work with the local retailers?
So with the retailers, it's a B2B contract that's typically signed off on in advance. From the retailers, we actually have a 3-tiered model that we introduced last April, where merchants are available to choose what's right for them. We have a 15% option, a 25% and a 30% option, all with different functionalities that is included with them. But yes, in light of COVID, we did roll out a new pricing structure, and we are happy that restaurants now have the choice to choose what works for their business.
Will that be 15% to 30% of the amount of the sale coming from the retailer?
Well, not from the retailer. That's for restaurants. The retailers, we have contracts in place that identify the payment.
Is the fee in that range, though?
I couldn't tell you. I can get back to you with that answer.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Committee, further questions? Representative Howe.
Thank you. I am still learning a little bit about this delivery marketplace. Could the retailers speak to whether or not you guys deliver prescription medicines or any over-the-counter medicines and things like that?
It's Mike O'Neill with Walmart. It's my understanding that currently by choice, the prescription medications are not available for delivery, although there is no, as far as we know, there's no specific prohibition. Over-the-counter products out of the pharmacy are delivered today.
Thank you. And my last question was, how do you determine if someone's visibly intoxicated? And I guess that would go to any of the proponents of the bill.
It is certainly subjective, and that's a criteria that's in the states that are currently having deliveries. It's subjective, and we're happy to have ABC weigh in on whether there's any additional language that might be required. But naturally, it's going to be a judgment call at the time. We're not aware of this being a problem in the states that we're currently delivering in.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question, if that's okay. For DoorDash or any of the, I guess, more delivery businesses, when you scan someone's driver's license, are you, I guess, have an agreement with, like, say in Kansas, the Department of Revenue to have access to the system? How does that work, and how do you store that information? Thank you.
So we go through a third-party system. We don't actually store that information. We have a vendor that does it. So I don't know about their storage practices. I can find out if you'd like me to, but we go through a third-party vendor.
Thank you.
Representative Reese.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In Kansas, we still have dry counties, and I think this question was brought up earlier last summer when we had the meetings. Is the delivery or the purchase of the alcoholic beverages to be brought into a dry county, is that at the point of sale or the point of delivery? How does that work?
Who are you directing your question to?
Tom or Mike or somebody, maybe Tuck, I was going to, okay.
Okay.
The intent, and we would defer to ABC on language, is that we will deliver only where it's legal to have a purchase. And for instance, and I'll take this opportunity to, it's not clear and probably needs to be made clear that we're talking intrastate, so only within the boundaries of Kansas, and it would not be our intent to deliver into a county where they would not be able to walk into a store and purchase. But if that needs, like we mentioned before, if that needs clarification, we have deferred at all times to ABC's direction.
Thank you.
If I may. And this is to Lexi. Lexi, how secure is the information, the data that is given to you for delivery? I know you said you have a third-party vendor, but is my information going to be sold, or how's it going to be handled?
We do not sell your information. No, the security information from the vendor I cannot speak to because it's a separate company. But no, DoorDash does not sell your information.
Thank you. Last question. Because of time restraints, Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. O'Neill, back to the answer you just gave. I'm not sure I understand the logic to that policy. Right now, if I live in a dry county, I can drive to a wet one, buy liquor, and take it home. So why would it matter if it's bought in one county and then delivered to another?
Again, this is more a not that we can't, but that we probably wouldn't. And that's where I think the best answer probably would come from ABC as to what would be legal if the retailer chose to do that. We intend to really follow ABC's guidance on this, and in talking internally, it's not our intent to go where we're not supposed to go. If ABC is fine with the process, just like you described in your hypothetical, then if it's legal, retailers can choose to do that if they want to.
It's legal to possess it in a dry county. It's just not legal to buy it. So
they can go into a county that's wet, buy it, and bring it back. I concede that. It's just that I don't know that we're doing that now in the places that we can. But obviously, your question is more what is legal as opposed to what a retailer would choose to do. So it's a good question.
Economically, I can see why it wouldn't be feasible.
Fair question. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Folks, I direct you to written proponents, Christy Brown and Eric Stafford with the Kansas Chamber as proponents. To be fair to the opponents, I'm trying to save enough time to get the opponents in. So the first up is Amy Campbell, Kansas Association of Beverage Retailers. Good morning. I'm giving you up to 5 minutes. You can use less, and we may be able to get everybody in. But
I would really like to do that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for having us here this morning. My name is Amy Campbell. I work for the Kansas Association of Beverage Retailers. This is the retailer organization that was established in Kansas to represent retail liquor stores at the repeal of Prohibition in 1949. At this point, we come before you as opponents to this legislation. I have spoken to you before about how the changes that occurred with the establishment of the beer law continue to see a reduction in the number of retailers that we have in the state of Kansas. This week, I looked at the number of licensees, and the number was 720. When the bill was passed in 2017, there were 759. These decreasing numbers were slowed by the pandemic. The pandemic was actually a boon to retailers because people were not drinking their alcoholic beverages at clubs and restaurants. They were going to retailers who were considered an essential service to buy their products. And that was a bit of an anomaly for our income levels, which was great. But now that's all right sizing. People are going back to our partners in the on-premise industry, which is as it should be. However, the bill in front of you is a significant step in alcohol deregulation. Kansas has always been more careful in its approach with deregulation. Even so, we have rapidly expanded the number of people who are licensed to, am I doing that? Okay. We really have vastly expanded the number of entities who are licensed or permitted to sell and sell alcoholic beverages in the state of Kansas. And quite frankly, our division of ABC has not been staffed up to keep up with those changes. I suggest to you that if this committee would like to move forward with allowing delivery, you are going to need to do some boosting to that agency, as you've just seen, for the wide variety of very large corporations who will want to dive into this field. I know this is what my testimony looks like. Obviously, you can read it. I just want to touch on a couple of points. First of all, third-party delivery.
I'll stop you there for just a second. Those folks that are on Webex, would you turn your mics off? I think that may be the cause of this. Go ahead. Thank you.
Good. So third-party delivery issues, Representative Heiberger, you referred to some of those that have occurred over the past couple of years. A quick Google search will take you to the Wall Street Journal. It will take you to Forbes magazine to talk about how third-party delivery has created some conflicts in the areas where they serve. We are highly aware of that. There were some principles that were created by the National Restaurant Association that were designed to sort of help with these conflicts. Not all of those measures are included in this bill. The question of who owns the customer data and how that can be shared or monetized is a key issue for us. And when it comes to how these products are delivered, we do want you to be very aware that we don't think alcohol should be sold like pizza or shoes. When it comes to the license, you already have a party that wants to enter the field that's asking you not to require them to pay $12.50 a year to be in the marketplace. That's what this bill does. The permit would cost $25 for 2 years. No employees of these entities are supposed to get a permit, according to the bill. And quite frankly, in reading the bill, we would ask that there be some clarification of exactly who has to get the permit. Because on page 2, it talks about independent contractors not needing a permit. So I'm not sure if that was intentional or if maybe I'm just not reading it correctly. We do not believe that unlicensed entities should be involved in the sale and delivery of alcohol. There are many states where liquor retailers deliver through their own employees. If Kansas wants to move forward, we would respectfully request you start looking in that direction. According to the Liquor Control Act, there are actions that the ABC can take to enforce civil penalties as well as criminal penalties on licensees. The provisions of this bill that relate to permits do not extend to those civil penalties or other types of obligations under the bill. I would just point out that it is current law that no person or entity that is not licensed can own any interest in retail liquor sales. Thank you. I would just deal with, again, on the last page, I talk about some of the statistics that talk about how the pandemic has led to increased drinking and consumption of alcohol. We do hope that that will right size, but at the end of the day, our retailers do not feel that this is the time for for liberalizing our liquor laws in this way. We are always happy to talk to you about the details, auto insurance, liability, and all of those other questions. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, and we'll take questions at the end of the.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Scott Snyder with the Kansas Restaurant and Hospitality Association. Good morning, and welcome to Federal and State Affairs.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Scott Schneider with the Kansas Restaurant and Hospitality Association. There's a lot of this bill that we do like, but I thought opposing it gave you the best contrast of where we were, because as this bill stands, we think it's going to create confusion for the consumer. And our alcohol laws already create significant confusion for the consumer, where you can get it at what time, and we have historically complicated alcohol laws. By not allowing the drinking establishments to participate, who are already the largest participants in the delivery marketplace, it will further, I think, aid in the perception that our alcohol laws are not well thought out. So if you're going to move this, we would ask that drinking establishments be included. In addition, I put the 7 principles that the National Restaurant Association has largely negotiated with the third-party deliveries into my testimony, so you could see our struggle and our agreement with these third-party entities. And Amy did mention the last piece of the data, and who owns that and who has access to it is an important one for the industry, because data has value unlike it ever has before. But as you move forward, we would ask that the restaurants, drinking establishment licensees who manage this every day be included in this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Whitney Dameron, Kansas Association of Responsible Liquor Laws. Whitney? Oh, there you are. Thank you, sir, and welcome to Federal and State Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Whitney Dameron, Kansas Association for Responsible Liquor Laws. I represent about 25 retailers, generally some of the larger retailers you see in the state. They're spread throughout the state of Kansas, and I have a list of my members on the back of my testimony. As we've talked before during the summer interim, COVID created a lot of changes for a lot of businesses, including those in the liquor business. One of the biggest issues in regard to liquor was takeout of liquor products at the restaurants, and my organization did not oppose those things that were first done through gubernatorial edict and then later codified in statute. We thought that was a reasonable accommodation given the circumstances. We have not supported delivery as it's embodied in this bill, and we spoke about that during the interim with our concerns. I'll highlight a couple of those again today. Number one, liability. There are some liability concerns with a retailer who has an employee delivering product, or even a third-party delivery, taking product to a residence. Maybe the person who did make that order is the one who's standing at the door and takes receipt of that, but you look beyond that and you see kind of a raging high school party going on behind you. What do? You comply with the law? Do you leave the product? Do you take the product back because you saw minors there that may be consuming alcohol products? Cost, delivery is not going to be free. It's going to press margins for the retailers. It's going to add cost to the consumer. Again, the issue has been raised, who owns this information? These organizations that testified today as proponents of this bill are huge consumers of data. I made the mistake of looking for a fireplace online about a week and a half ago, and now I'm inundated every time I turn on my computer with advertisements for fireplaces. And that's what happens to this data as someone is ordering product from a retailer, from a grocery store, a C-store, whatever. Those entities that are making those deliveries consume that data, and they use it for their own benefit, and quite frankly, to the detriment of oftentimes of those who are they supposedly serving. We've also, what we've seen in the media is these companies practically unable to regulate them. It's very difficult to provide a level playing field that they follow. They have unlimited bank accounts. They have unlimited access to lawyers and so forth that make it very difficult to control them when they want market and margin. Changes in recent years that have been talked about in the liquor business, I've highlighted some of those in my testimony. Ever since the grand compromise that my friend Tom Pallas talked about in 2017 in regard to beer that went live in 2019, virtually every liquor bill that's come before you that has had some degree of complication or people on both sides has been worked out. And all of those, whether it's days and hours of sale, growlers and crowlers, temporary permits, carryouts, canning and bottling changes, and on, have been agreed upon by the industry. What is before you is not agreed upon by the industry, and we think it would go significantly towards unleveling the playing field. These companies that have testified for this have shown, based upon their bank accounts and their ability to reuse data, is profit is not their number one priority now. Building market share is their number one priority. The biggest companies in the world stood before you and got on Webex and wanted you to change the way that we sell liquor products in the state of Kansas. That's not going to be in the benefit of our small retailers here in the state, whether they're small convenience stores, what's left of the last corner grocery store, or the retail liquor stores. They talked about this being an even playing field. We don't think it's a playing field. We think it's a battlefield most of the time, and the bodies are littered all over the place. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for listening to our comments and concerns. I'd be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Phil Bradley. He's on WebEx. Mr. Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me? I am Philip Bradley. I'm here today representing several groups of small businesses that would be affected in this alcohol industry. Let us be clear up front. We believe in delivery. We know that it's happened in other states, and we participate in national efforts in those states. So it's possible to have it done. We don't think this bill gets there. We oppose this bill largely and first and foremost because we are not in it. We are allowed to sell as acting in a retail capacity to consumers in the state, closed packages for them to take away from our businesses. And to be specific, from a microbrewery or a farm winery, we can do that today. Much in the same way that a liquor store or a grocery store can sell a product to be carried out the door, we can do the same thing today. And yet we appreciate the authors of this bill saying that they want to be all-inclusive, but when it came time to put it in print, we're not included in the bill. And without us being included in this, we oppose it directly. And in order of time, I will condense my testimony down for you to also say we have concerns about who is delivering and whether or not they're permitted or whether or not they even have an avenue for the ABC to control, and hopefully it wouldn't happen, but punitive punishment for them if they go wrong. Right now, anyone who serves alcohol in the state of Kansas, there is a direct line of where the responsibility lies, what it means. Most of that is in statute or rules and regs, and if something goes wrong, who gets punished and how they get punished. That is not necessarily anywhere in this bill, and I think it needs to be. And my good colleague, Scott Snyder, representing a different group of on-premise folks than I represent, has told you that we agree with his testimony and the points that he made as well. And that's the major points of my testimony, Mr. Chairman. Others have said things that we also agree with, but I know you can read what we have there, and I will answer any questions if anyone has any. And I'll stop now to give you your time back, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Aaron Rosenow, Vern's Retail Liquor. Good morning, sir, and welcome to Fed and State.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. You've heard ad nauseum from everybody here today who is paid to be here. I don't know everyone in the gallery, but I'm here of my own free will, not getting paid. I own Vern's Liquor here in Topeka. I'm a second-generation liquor store owner, second-generation veteran-owned liquor store owner. The basic thing this comes down to is want and need. Out-of-state corporations, biggest retail chain in the world, second biggest retail chain in the world, want something in the state, and that's to deliver booze that they can currently deliver. They don't need it. I don't see a lot of Walmarts, Amazon, Drizzly closing today. Like Amy Campbell said, we're down 30-odd liquor store licenses in the state. That's 30 stores who had employees who had families, people who gave back in the community. I'm not saying these other people don't. I'm just saying I like to keep it local. I'm biased that way, born and raised in Kansas. So if you have any questions about it, just see who wants this to happen and who doesn't. You can see who wants this to happen. And now you have a local liquor store owner and other local liquor store owners who don't want this to happen. The other opponents don't want this to happen because they're not in the bill. So obviously they just want a piece of the pie. Clean and short, if you have any questions, I'm here.
Thank you very much, sir. Last up is Phil Cosby, American Family Action.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Philip Cosby, American Family Action. I'm here to oppose House Bill 2611. First, I'll reference the recent Special Committee on Liquor Law Modernization in their report. And this was their mission statement, and quite frankly, I was pleasantly surprised to see its cautionary tone. It says, the committee wishes to make the legislature aware of the collateral effects of alcohol on the lives of Kansans and urges the legislature to be diligent in monitoring such side effects or those effects. And they propose no legislation. So where this emerges from, as far as these series of bills, is suspect, but I was pleased to hear that cautionary tone. I included one quote here: don't remove the fences until you ask the question, why were the fences put there in the first place? We need to, we're Kansans, and we have some common sense about what liquor can do, has done. I've included two other documents. One there at Kansas City, about 2 years ago, we wrote 500 DUIs. This year, now we've done 1,300. Every day we take a drunk off the street, we save a life. I know one of the representatives asked a question about drunk driving. That was one piece I found. The other is a study actually out of Australia. There's not a lot of studies available about home delivery, but this was one. But it did quote an effects in America. It says increased availability of alcohol is likely to lead to higher rates of consumption and harm. So that is one study that I reference here. Alcohol is most commonly used addictive substance in America. Excessive drinking on a single occasion or a length of time will lead to serious health problems. The data pushes an interesting dimension of this. As you all get cookies, you search for something, and then all of a sudden you get all these ads. There's going to be nothing but more temptations to those that can get it delivered straight to their home. Well, in this study, there is one quote here about 28% reported that delivery enabled them to continue drinking when they otherwise would have stopped. This is the definition of insanity, to do the same thing over again and expect something different. ABC testified to you of their 80-some orders that they placed out of state, and over 90% were delivered. That was an unlawful act, but they had no jurisdiction. So do we really think that we'll do something of the same category? We will deliver to homes by Uber or Doordash, and a subjective assessment if that person is drunk or not, deny them their alcohol, plus they won't get their tip. What could possibly go wrong there? What could possibly go wrong? In 2012, a study in the United States found nearly half of all alcohol orders placed by underage drinkers were delivered. The fiscal note says there's a negligible fiscal effect by the Department of Revenue. Let's think past fiscal. Obviously, they're saying it's not going to cost anything from their standpoint, but it is. Our own common sense and our common experience says otherwise. Physical health, mental health, financial health, family life, divorce, violence, adult children experience depression. You all have a story about a loved one, everyone in here. Not just thinking about the consequences of a decision, but the consequences of those consequences. My story, I was 8-year-old when my hopelessly alcoholic father abandoned the family. I just buried my sister, who fell into an alcoholic coma 20 years ago and was a ward of the state until she died. Can you say, under driving influence, it says that this law shall be liberally construed to promote public health, safety, and welfare? Can you put that stamp on this? That you're good lawmakers seeking the general welfare. This is not the new normal. We don't have to do this for convenience. We're Kansans. We don't need a lot of studies. We know the story.
Thank you, sir. Committee, I will direct you to the two written opponents that are on your sheet, R&J Liquor and On the Rocks. I'm going to go straight to the neutrals because I think there'll be some questions to the neutrals, and we'll do open up the questions. I'm just looking at the clock. So I'm going to take the neutrals up. First would be Debbie Beavers. Good morning, Madam Director, and welcome to Fed and State Affairs.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Debbie Beavers. I'm the Director of Alcoholic Beverage Control. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. We are neutral on this bill. We have worked with various industry members since this summer and on the language that was proposed, and the bill that before us that we have some concerns over that have not been addressed, and we ask consideration for that. The bill calls for a 2-year permit for $25, and all permits that ABC issues are for 1 year or less, and so we would respectfully request consideration to reduce that to a 1-year permit. And frankly, we were left confused on who we would actually issue a permit to, because the bill says it's the right of the retailer or CMB retailer's license. It also says that the employees of the retailer don't have to have a permit. And it goes on to say that independent contractors and third-party delivery services don't need a permit. So we're a little bit confused on that, and we ask for clarification on exactly who do we issue these permits to. I think the only way we would issue a permit at this point would be to a large company such as Doordash or Uber Eats, something like that. It also specifies that the delivery is available in a 50-mile radius of the location of the licensee. It's almost here to Kansas City. I mean, we feel like that is a very broad area for delivery, and we would request that to be reduced to a 25-mile radius. And certainly, it must specify that it is within the state of Kansas. They cannot be taking liquor across state lines, so we definitely ask for that clarification. It mentions record keeping by the delivery, but there's no real specification on requiring those records, so we would ask for some clarification for that. It also authorizes a $500 fine, but under current law, ABC directors authorized to issue up to a $1,000 fine. And for conformity, we would ask the same, that this be extended so it's the same across the board. And then finally, the definition of the third-party delivery service in the new sections only refer to the Liquor Control Act and the CMB Act. And we believe that the Club and Drinking Establishment Act should be added to that, because if not, an on-premise licensee could get a delivery permit and act as a third party delivering on behalf of retailers, and then deliveries could be made to on-premise licensees. So I think, Mr. Chairman, those are our concerns, and if I may, I would like to provide a little bit of clarification to the question about dry counties. That is for on-premise. Dry counties is for on-premise drinks. But we do, in fact, have 4 cities in the state of Kansas that are dry, meaning no retail liquor stores. In those cities, if there's a CMB license, they can only sell CMB products. They can't sell the beer up to 6% in those particular 4 cities. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be happy to answer any questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you very much. And last up is Tuck Duncan, Kansas Wine and Spirits Wholesalers Association. Good morning, sir, and welcome to Federal State.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess when you retire, you become a historian. My exhibit this morning is this. This is why we're here. How many of you make orders using this thing? I've got an Amazon app. I've got more apps on this than I know what to do with. This is what's driving a lot of this conversation. And as Abe Lincoln said, some of his friends are for it, and some of his friends are against it, and he's with his friends. And I'm here today with my friends. I adopt all of what the secretary or what the director stated. We had suggested a 30-mile radius. My original proposal to these folks was it be by county or city in which the licensee was located, but they say that their algorithms don't work that way. They don't know where county lines are. So I suggest the 30 miles because most counties are 30 by 30 miles. We suggest that obviously it's got to be made clear that there are no deliveries out of state. About 50% of all alcohol in this state is sold within 50 miles of the Missouri border. So we need to make sure that we don't have that difficulty. Our basic issue this morning is to say to you, if you adopt this policy, it needs to be for everybody or for nobody. A half and half policy where now beer, which is up to 6%, is sold in every county. There's no dry counties on CMD licenses, would then be creating a disequilibrium with the counties, with the liquor stores in all of the counties. We got 20-some counties that have only 1 liquor store, 22 counties that have only 2 stores. There's only 1 county with no liquor store, Donovan, but they run over to Missouri. So, and the dry counties are there's 6 counties that have no drinking establishment licenses. So that's the nature of the dry county issue, as the director stated. There are some technical changes that need to be made. There's a word agent in there that probably ought to be representative, and I've cited that section. We need to put in here, because this is probably a new section, I don't know whether this goes into the Liquor Control Act or the Club Act or what, that gives the director the authority to promulgate rules and regulations. And the biggest gap in this thing is what the director identified in terms of lack of permitting. Who do you permit? The person that needs to be permitted is the driver. Those drivers, in most cases for these organizations, are not employees. They're by definition independent contractors. If you're an independent contractor, and I know because I lost the big case in front of the Supreme Court on exotic dancers on this issue, you are not subject to the control of the individual that you're in contract with. So these companies don't technically have any control over these individuals who are independent contracting delivery people. Because if they did, they'd be paying the work comp and the other things that they don't want to pay. So we've got to permit the individual drivers and make them demonstrate to you that they're of 21 years age, they're not felons, and that they have insurance on the vehicles that they drive, most of which they own themselves. And that is a huge hole in this bill. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to stand for any questions you might have on this issue.
Thank you. This is the question portion. Mr. Tuck, I just have one question before I turn it over.
Yes, sir.
You're familiar, I know, with Missouri. Does Missouri have alcohol delivery?
Yes, they do. They have, I'm not exactly how sure it works, but they do have some delivery. I know they have it in Kansas City, Missouri.
And has it been a problem for them delivering in Kansas, or do you know that?
Well, I hope our highway patrol has caught them.
Well, so do I, but I just wondered if there was some cases out there.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I wish I did.
Further questions of the committee?
Thank you, sir.
Representative Hauser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question would be for Director Beavers. Director, who should be responsible for any violations? Who should be responsible to pay the fines? And I agree with you, it should be $1,000 or more. But it seems like all the big retailers are going to be exempt from it. So should that boil down as to what Mr. Duncan was talking about, that the individual who is actually making the delivery, will they be the ones that should be responsible for the fines or what have you?
My opinion would be it depends on how the language ends up being. It makes sense. For instance, a retail liquor store today who also wholesales to the on-premise, their employees can deliver that product. They don't have to have a permit. So in my mind, it makes sense to be consistent with that a retail liquor store or retailer, their employees would not have to have a permit, but that would make the licensee responsible if there's a violation. But these third parties and independent contractors certainly should be permitted, and then if there was a violation, it would be against that permit holder.
Seems like quite a mess.
Thank you. Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not following what the policy concerns are about distance. What do we care whether it's 30, 50, 100? I don't know what the policy is that the distance has to be constricted.
Director?
From a regulatory perspective, if you have a licensee who's driving 50 miles in each direction, that's a 100-mile span, and it makes it very difficult for us to regulate, so cutting that span down would be helpful. I live in Ozaki, it's 22 miles from here. I can't get anything delivered to my house directly. So we feel like it would make it a little bit more manageable as a regulator to have that broad span, shrunk down a little bit.
Well, now I'm really confused because I don't know what you're talking about, regulating a delivery. How are you going to regulate it?
Well, they have permits, and they can only deliver to the person who has ordered that, and they have to be age, check the age 21, and it's going to be very difficult, frankly, to regulate this.
Right, you're not going to be riding along.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I
Thank
just
you.
don't understand.
Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director, this is for you. Is it your understanding that your agency would be responsible for providing the training or the substance of the training that these individuals would have to have in order to do this business?
The bill specifies certain things that must be in the training. Those training plans would be submitted to us for review, and we would approve them or request changes to it.
And I think the second part, if you don't mind, Chair, I think, the part that really bothers me is that we're going to ask that these delivery drivers be able to determine if somebody is intoxicated. As an individual who's been tasked with having to receive training over and over and over again, and then still doubted in courts whether I can determine whether somebody is impaired to drive a vehicle, and the difference between a bartender who's serving drinks to an individual who may or may not drive home versus somebody who's already at home, what level would we, my question is, how do we train somebody to determine that somebody is too intoxicated at their home to receive an alcoholic beverage? The fact that it remains subjective to the driver, I think, an individual's found in their pool face down with a 0.24% blood alcohol content, and it comes back to they received a delivery that day, and we're going to try to blame the driver that he didn't recognize the individual was too intoxicated to receive a six-pack of beer. Do you see that as a problem?
I do completely agree that it's subjective, and in current law today, a retail liquor store is not supposed to sell someone who is visibly intoxicated, and that's subjective. And there are certain signs, red eyes, slurring words, stumbling, things like that, but it is subjective, but that's existing law today.
Thank you. Representative Wagner? And this may be the last question. We have Senate Judiciary coming in here next.
Can I ask it to an opponent? The question would be to Ms. Beavers of the Kansas Association of Beverage Retailers. Or, I'm sorry, not Beavers, the Amy Campbell, I'm sorry. Amy, the question has come up as to that this bill would be fine if it just included everybody. And what is your opinion or critique of that? I mean, I take it, did they not ask you about this, or how do you see that as being an improvement on this bill?
So the difficulty for the proponents is exactly that. We don't think that this industry is ready for delivery in Kansas yet. However, if you go ahead and take the liquor retailers out of the bill and pass the bill, you have already created the baseline for what delivery would be in Kansas for liquor retailers in the future. Additionally, you are enabling our direct beer competitors, our corporate competitors who sell beer that our retailers also sell. So I guess I would say if the bill's going to be moving forward out of this committee, we're going to be dragged along trying to defeat it and also make it better at the same time.
Thank you. Thank you. Folks, the Senate Judiciary comes in here next, so I'm always respectful of their time. I would bring, the reviser has brought to my attention on House Bill 2528, which is concerning the amusement rides, the inflatables, that we passed out, that there was a technical amendment. And what I'm suggesting, because we always give the reviser the ability to do any technical amendments, without objection, I will just let him go forward. Any objection? Thank you. Then, Mike, you have the authority to make the technical amendment. Committee, tomorrow we have 2 hearings. And I'm going to alert you now, if you're not going to be here in the next 2 days, because I'm going to also give you some bad news. The bad news is we're going to work Friday. But if you're not going to be here prior to 11 o'clock tomorrow, notify me or notify Connie or notify the ranking member or the vice chair if I need to get a replacement for you. Because one of those days, we're going to be working bills. If we can get it in tomorrow, that's fine. We won't work Friday. If we can't, we will be working Friday. Because that's turnaround will be on the floor all next week and probably will not be meeting. So, any questions from the committee for the good of the committee? Seeing none, we are adjourned.